Imagine a world where we can talk about ideas and not be at each other's throats when we disagree. A world where differences of opinion are not seen as a threat, but rather as an opportunity for growth and understanding. In this world, we recognize that diversity of thought is what fuels progress and innovation. We engage in respectful and open-minded conversations, seeking to learn from one another rather than trying to prove ourselves right. In this imagined world, even as we disagree, we can still come together to synthesize information and find common ground. We understand that there is rarely a single right answer, but rather a range of perspectives that can contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of complex issues. We value collaboration and compromise, recognizing that the best solutions often arise from a collective effort. Imagine a world where news and media serve as unbiased sources of information, free from manipulation and hidden agendas. A world where journalism is driven by a commitment to truth and transparency, rather than sensationalism and clickbait. In this world, media outlets prioritize the dissemination of accurate and balanced reporting, empowering individuals to make informed decisions based on facts rather than distorted narratives. You might think that this imagined world is nothing more than a utopian fantasy, but I assure you, it is within our reach. The key is our willingness to make it a reality. It starts with each and every one of us. Before we worry about whether others are willing to change, we must first ask ourselves, are we willing to embrace a new way of thinking and engage in meaningful dialogue? To restore the art of critical thinking and sense-making, we must prioritize education and continuous learning. We need to teach our children how to think critically, how to analyze information, and how to discern between reliable sources and misinformation. We must foster a culture that values intellectual curiosity and encourages the exploration of diverse perspectives. But it doesn't stop there. We must also be willing to challenge our own biases and preconceptions. We must be open to having our beliefs and ideas challenged, and be willing to revise our views when presented with compelling evidence. It requires humility and intellectual honesty to admit when we are wrong and to embrace new insights. Imagine a world where critical thinking and sense-making are not just skills possessed by a few, but are ingrained in the fabric of society. A world where these abilities are celebrated and nurtured, and where individuals are empowered to think for themselves and contribute to the collective wisdom of humanity. Alternative media. For those who regularly engage with alternative media, it may not come as a surprise that many people fell for misleading narratives propagated by the mainstream media in 2024. However, it is important to recognize that critical thinking challenges exist not only within mainstream media, but also within the crowds that work in and consume alternative media. As someone who delves into both spheres, I have observed a tendency for people to fall into the trap of believing that everything is a conspiracy or that everything presented by alternative media is true while mainstream media is always wrong. This kind of thinking is flawed and can hinder our ability to discern the truth. In a previous essay, I explored the topic of conspiracy, shedding light on the fact that conspiracies do exist in our world from time to time. However, it is crucial to differentiate between genuine conspiracies and baseless claims. Oftentimes, individuals may mistake their own beliefs or personal interpretations as evidence, leading them down a rabbit hole of misguided conclusions. Distinguishing between what is actually supported by evidence and what is merely a subjective belief is a challenging task. It is worth remembering that sometimes it is easier to identify what is not true rather than to definitively determine what is true. The allure of alternative media lies in its ability to offer alternative perspectives and challenge the dominant narratives put forth by mainstream media. It provides a platform for marginalized voices and promotes critical thinking. However, it is essential to approach alternative media with the same level of scrutiny and discernment as we do with mainstream media. Blindly accepting everything presented by alternative media without questioning its validity can be just as detrimental to our understanding of the world as blindly accepting mainstream narratives. To foster a truly informed and empowered society, we must cultivate a culture of critical thinking and independent research. It is important to seek out multiple sources of information, evaluate the credibility of those sources, and cross-reference the information presented. By doing so, we can develop a more nuanced understanding of complex issues and avoid falling prey to misinformation and manipulation. Given the current state of affairs in our world, it is evident that many significant decisions are being made based on faulty information. The consequences of these decisions are far-reaching and have the potential to greatly impact our lives and the world we live in. In light of this, it becomes crucial for us to develop the skill of making effective decisions through the use of facts and engaging in proper dialogue. Consider the practice of meditation, for instance. When we engage in meditation, it leads us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It cultivates a greater sense of self-awareness and allows us to tap into inner peace and tranquility. But what does all of this have to do with decision-making? The answer lies in recognizing that our level of consciousness and spiritual development directly influence the choices we make. When we prioritize our spiritual growth and cultivate spiritual skills, such as mindfulness, compassion, and self-reflection, we begin to see a shift in how we perceive and approach decision-making. We start to view decisions not only through the lens of personal gain or immediate gratification, but also through the lens of long-term impact and collective well-being. By integrating spiritual practices into our daily lives, we develop a heightened sense of intuition and inner wisdom. We become more attuned to our values and the underlying motivations behind our decisions. This, in turn, allows us to make choices that align with our higher selves and contribute to the greater good. Moreover, spiritual development is not limited to personal growth, it also extends to our understanding of current events and the world at large. When we expand our consciousness and deepen our spiritual understanding, we begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. We realize that the events unfolding in the world are not isolated incidents, but rather a reflection of the collective consciousness. Just as a ripple in a pond affects the entire body of water, our thoughts, beliefs, and actions have a ripple effect on the world around us. Therefore, it is essential to approach current events with a mindful and discerning mindset. By doing so, we can move beyond the surface-level analysis and delve deeper into the underlying causes and implications of these events. Instead, those subjects are often avoided, and thus our inner spiritual work doesn't always translate into the deeper changes in our societal world, as we've set up a barrier as to how we apply our level of consciousness. However, it is important to recognize that our personal growth and transformation should not be confined to our individual experiences alone. We have the power to extend our awareness and make a positive impact on the world around us. Take, for example, the average meditator. They seek greater peace in their own lives and desire to see a more peaceful and thriving world. Yet, they may also hold the belief that news is predominantly negative and choose to disengage from it. While this may provide temporary comfort, it prevents us from fully understanding the complexities of our society and hinders our ability to bring about meaningful change. To truly create a thriving world, we must be willing to step outside our comfort zones and engage with the questions that challenge the status quo. It is through asking these questions that we gain a deeper understanding of how our world functions and why certain issues persist. By actively seeking knowledge and engaging in discussions about societal structures, we can begin to identify areas that require transformation. It is not enough to simply meditate and hope for change. We must actively apply our heightened awareness to address the root causes of societal problems. This means taking our spiritual practice beyond the confines of our meditation pillows and into the realm of action. It means using our expanded consciousness to challenge existing systems and advocate for positive change. By embracing our role as agents of transformation, we can become catalysts for societal progress. We can use our inner work as a driving force to inspire and motivate others to join us in creating a better world. It is through our collective efforts that we can break down the barriers that limit the translation of personal growth into societal change. Know ourselves. The pathway to self-discovery and personal growth lies in our ability to truly understand ourselves and how we operate. It is through this deep introspection that we can uncover our subconscious patterns, beliefs, and behaviors that shape our lives. By bringing these aspects of ourselves to our conscious awareness, we can then raise our consciousness and gain a greater understanding of who we are and how we can take action to create the life we desire. Similarly, When it comes to understanding the world around us and the events that shape it, we must go beyond the surface level and ask ourselves deeper questions. How does the world really work? Are we truly informed about the choices we make, such as who we vote for or what we invest in? Are we capable of achieving something greater than what we are currently exposed to? These questions push us to explore beyond the confines of mainstream media and seek a more comprehensive understanding of the world. In today's fast-paced and information-driven society, it is easy to rely on the narratives presented to us by the media and accept them as the whole truth. However, by doing so, we limit our perspective and fail to grasp the full complexity of the world we live in. It is only by actively seeking knowledge, questioning the status quo, and exploring alternative viewpoints that we can truly understand the reality of our world. By delving deeper into the workings of our society, we gain insight into the forces that shape our lives and the choices available to us. We become empowered to make informed decisions and take actions that align with our values and aspirations. This process of exploration and self-discovery opens up new possibilities and expands our horizons. In essence, the journey towards understanding ourselves and the world around us requires us to ask deeper questions and challenge the narratives presented to us. It is through this exploration that we can gain a clearer picture of where we stand and what actions we need to take to create the life we desire. So let us embark on this journey of self-discovery, knowledge, and empowerment, for it is through this path that we can truly make a difference in our lives and the world. By delving into the depths of critical thinking, we not only gain a deeper understanding of the choices made by individuals, but we also gain insight into the very essence of the human condition and the underlying cultural influences. It is through this exploration that we may begin to question whether some of these choices are driven by conspiracy, hidden agendas, or ulterior motives. However, it is important to note that the purpose of this process is not to pass judgment or seek revenge on those who may have acted wrongly. Instead, it is a journey towards self-awareness and enlightenment, where we bring to light the possible hidden truths that may be shaping our world. Critical thinking is a powerful tool that allows us to analyze situations, relationships, ideas, and real-world information with a discerning eye. It is about unraveling the layers of complexity and uncovering the underlying motivations behind what we see and experience. Through this process, we can begin to understand our personal and collective relationship with the world around us. It is through critical thinking that we actively participate in shaping the reality we perceive. To embark on this journey of mastering critical thinking, I propose a process I have developed called embodied sensemaking. This approach encourages us to not only engage our minds, but also to tap into our physical and emotional experiences. By integrating our senses and intuition, we can gain a more holistic understanding of the information at hand. There are numerous ways to cultivate and enhance our critical thinking skills, both on an individual level and as a community. One important aspect is to cultivate curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. By continually seeking out new information and perspectives, we expand our mental horizons and challenge our existing beliefs. This openness to learning allows us to approach situations with a fresh and unbiased mindset. Another crucial element of mastering critical thinking is the ability to analyze and evaluate information critically. This involves questioning the source, validity, and reliability of the information we encounter. By developing a healthy skepticism, we can avoid being swayed by misinformation or manipulation. Listening. One of the best ways to improve our critical thinking is to better hear what is actually being said. Whether we are reading, watching a video, listening to a podcast, or in conversation, truly taking the time to hear what is being said seems a lost art. To hear correctly means slowing down, reducing stress, and choosing to truly attune to another person. This is where embodied sense-making comes in. When we can be more present and settle our stress physiology, we are more embodied. Our ventral vagus nerve activates and our ability to attune to another person increases. This is also why we place the exercise at the top of all of our articles, which invites each of us to become more present and physiologically coherent. This simple second exercise literally changes our physiological state into one that can hear better, discern better, empathize better, and navigate information better. What state are we in when we are listening to something? How about when someone says something we don't quite like? Do we start sighing, judging, and responding back to the screen saying things like, "Oh man, you don't get it"? Does this change the way we listen and what we hear? Do we miss all of the areas that we actually agree with the person on in favor of seeing the one or two things we don't agree with? Were we open to learning something new? In order to improve your listening while consuming content or in conversation, take a moment to breathe, become present, and notice your surroundings. Truly be there and bring your awareness to the idea that you're committing to listening to someone, holding off your response and truly hearing them. This sounds simple, but you'll find this muscle of truly listening is not one we flex all that often, especially in our fast-paced world. Understanding our bias. Bias is something we all have. It's a distortion in our thinking that can often make it so we begin to disengage with what someone is saying because in some sense we have been triggered by something we already believe, and we now shut off any further inquiry into new information. Bias also affects how we see news and information, as well as situations and our relationships, and even affects the decisions we make. For example, imagine someone is biased toward a political affiliation. Maybe they like Democrats over Republicans. That person will likely speak more positively about politicians that are Democratic, and more negatively about Republicans, regardless of what each politician might truly stand for. Further, the amount of evidence needed to disprove a Democratic position will be huge, whereas it will be very little for a Republican. The source of this bias stems from the fact that the person identifies as a Democrat. The issue here is we are making something, with no real value in making an impactful decision, very important. Not only that, but we culturally begin to focus on these unimportant details so much that we all begin to argue over them and divide ourselves by them, pulling us away from truly getting to the bottom of what is really going. In a spiritual sense, we're taking the incredible being that we are as an awareness having an experience, and confining it to an incredibly limiting box that states, "I'm a progressive," or "I'm a conservative." Does that truly tell someone who you are and what you believe? Is that label actually serving our culture? We feel overcoming bias is so important in improving critical thinking and creating a thriving world that we developed a course called Overcoming Bias and Improving Critical Thinking. It's designed to help us shed light on our own bias, recognize it in others, and improve our self-awareness, also we can think more critically and make more effective decisions. You can check it out here. Asking questions, ease, playfulness, and curiosity. Another key to improving critical thinking is taking a quick look at what our state of being is with regards to learning about and exploring new information. In essence, what's your frame of mind and emotions when you're consuming media? Think for a moment when a kid is learning, they are often playful, curious, and move about with ease. They aren't finding ways to disagree, trying to argue all the time or identify with a particular position. These are learned habits that we develop as we take note of cultural norms and form a certain sense of identity around how we think about what we believe. While some might argue this is natural, is that really true? Is it optimal? Does it mean that we can't change this pattern? Or perhaps we can ask, where has that belief in this pattern led us? Is our society peaceful? Do we make sense of things effectively? Are we working together or are we divided by our beliefs? My research and experience in working on myself and with others for the last 14 years has led me to a simple truth. We are all capable to expanding our awareness past the fickle form of identity that sees us as our beliefs. Further, a lack of curiosity again stems from our stress physiology. When the ventral vagus nerve of our autonomic nervous system is activated, an emergent quality is curiosity. Again, this is where embodied sense-making comes in. I've seen people free themselves from faulty ways of sense-making so deeply that they begin to synthesize information so much more effectively, and they can communicate with others much more deeply without all the arguments and disagreements. Why? Because they are free from the idea that someone is attacking their beliefs. They are free from the idea of needing to be right or wrong. They instead are at play and hold curiosity and ease enough that they can keep asking questions. They are much more embodied. Questions are key. When we hear bits of information and ask more questions as opposed to simply jumping to conclusions, we pull our thinking and awareness even deeper. We begin to see where else things might go versus simply stopping at whatever an analyst on TV might have told us. Oftentimes people feel that getting to answers is all about researching and hearing what others are saying. But what questions did they ask themselves to arrive at the answer they are giving you? We must learn to ask the right questions if we want to get to answers that are more impactful and meaningful. This is oftentimes the biggest factor in why mainstream, and even a lot of alternative media, is failing to provide people with experiences of arriving at useful answers. The questions being asked are often built from a bias, therefore they are faulty questions or questions that seek only to bring answers that fit into our existing bias.